You seem to me such an authentic person, real, empathetic. And how do you maintain that as you grow and scale?
Well, it was difficult when we were a larger company, but after the two acquisitions we had, Studio Press got bought by WP Engine, then we sold the Rainmaker line. I took a break and I came back with just my personal projects that I had always treated as me communicating with the world, not a company or what have you. And now they're both companies, but I've just maintained that, and using my real email address to send out newsletters and whatnot. A lot of people think that's kind of nuts, but I'm realistic about it. I say, look, I read everything. I try to reply as much as I can. If I don't, please don't take it personally. Don't hate me. But yeah, I get a lot of email.
So is it just like, was there ever a point when you were like, okay, this is getting too much? And if I were to respond to every single person, then all my life would be overtaken and this would be my full-time job. And did that hurt you mentally, or did that play any role mentally? Like, oh, damn, I can't respond to everyone. I wish I could.
It's interesting because I think during the time when Copyblogger was newer and really rocketing up, 2006 to 2010, that was also the beginning point of what social media used to be. Blog comments were a real thing, before Twitter and Facebook really took over. So that's where the conversations were happening. And it was interesting because your conversations effectively became content, while answering emails seemed like, well, what a waste. This isn't even content. It was a different mindset. Now I would much rather, I think, engage in, a brief but meaningful email exchange with someone, especially when they take the time to write in and say, I appreciate your work, or I have a question, or, it's weird because I think now I appreciate that human interaction perhaps more than I did on the way up, because it was a different time for one, but I have to check myself all the time. I've got a healthy ego, and anytime I catch myself going, well, I'm too busy to communicate with mere people who fall, give me a break. If I ever catch myself thinking that, I know there's a problem. I need to slap myself down.
So how have you checked your ego? What are the ways you go about doing that when you notice yourself getting too big for your britches?
It's a constant process, Danny. No, but I think I'm I've grown up a lot, interestingly enough, in the last 15 years. As we're doing this, Copyblogger turns 15 in a couple of days. It's crazy to me to think. And, I was 38 when I started Copyblogger. So you would think I had some maturity about myself at the time, but there were a lot of things that I think the process of all of this has helped me figure out what's important, right? Because when I started Copyblogger, I was like, I want an audience. And then I just want to make a business that I can feed my family, doing what I love, which is mainly writing, marketing, what have you. And then next thing you know, you've got a few 7-figure businesses, and then we made it to 8 figures, something I never really even aspired to. And so each step of the way, you're going to higher and higher heights of money and influence and status, all the things we think are going to make us happy. Guess what? They don't suck, but that's not where you're going to find fulfillment, right? And that's during my mid 40s, I really started to take a look at that, the bigger picture. I was succeeding in business, but I didn't feel great. My relationships weren't great. My health was terrible. So that's actually where Further came from. I said, I got to start, I got to quit kind of crapping all over personal development. Like it's, like I had it in my head, like Tony Robbins and stuff like that. That does not work with me. But of course I'm a psychology major too. So I'm like, let's go back and look at some of this positive psychology stuff And that made a lot of difference to me. I figured out, oh, I understand now why I'm not fulfilled. I've been chasing the wrong things. Again, nothing wrong with business building, success, money. They're all great things. They can't be the only thing, though.
So what were some of the things that when you started to get your personal development in check at, I don't know what age you were, but what were some of the things that you turned to say, okay, this is the path that I want to go down, and this is what am I doing on a day-to-day basis to get myself to where I want to go? What were some of those things?
Right. So, before about age 47, I'm 53 now. I was your consummate burn the candle at both ends. Who needs to sleep? I didn't sleep well for, I don't know, a decade or more, probably more. Drank too much, didn't eat well enough, didn't exercise. Loved my family dearly. I'm an introvert, so I don't need a bunch of people, but you've got to take care of the people who are closest to you and matter. And I always did. But I thought the economic part, as I'm the tough dad who gets it done and brings home the money and all that kind of stuff. People need a lot more from you than that. And I need them, for obviously more than that. So it was really the entire realm outside of business that I was somewhat neglecting. And now fast forward, 6 years later, and I do prioritize sleep, and I do work out, and I do eat well. And, it's the relationships, even beyond my family now, that I reach out more than I ever used to among people, that you could say they're colleagues, industry friends, high school friends, what have you. I was never the guy who was reaching out, and I'm trying to change that. That's more difficult for me because I am pretty self-contained. I like to just do my work, and work on myself. But that's a big part of it. You know how important relationships are, and you've learned it at a young age, and that's awesome.
So what was the step for Brian 2.0 to start evolving? Was there someone who reached out to you, said, this is the path I want you to go down? Or did you have a voice talk to you? Like, it sounds like a completely different person than who you were 10 years ago from your own analysis. So what was that step that got you to a new path, or was it just a gradual process?
Well, it's interesting because you may not get this reference, but my wife always called me the Madonna of business because I've reinvented myself over and over again. That's kind of an 80s reference there for you. But I have had these moments when I quit practicing law was one and became an entrepreneur, no idea what I was doing. When I quit my first businesses after I had a snowboarding accident, I had brain surgery, big life change. I gave up everything and started Copyblogger. Every time I've stayed true to myself and really said, I can't go on this way. And I've also said, I don't care if I succeed as much as this, as long as, again, like I said, can I make enough to pay the bills and be happy? Every time I've done that, I've gone to astronomical levels of greater success. And, so it sounds like a cliche when people say, be true to yourself. But there's a lot to that. It's not a cliche. It's really aligning your purpose and what's meaningful to you. And so when you put your hard work into it, you get something out that perpetuates, it grows, right? In a way that something you hate will never grow. If you're only doing it for the money, you're a better person than me if you can pull that off. I don't get the real ruthless types. If it's not satisfying to me, everyone talks about process, not results. Well, if you hate the process, how can you be happy with your life? So I think you not only have to focus on process, you have to choose a process or a context where just doing it provides you with fulfillment and satisfaction. And then you get the benefits, and it's even better. So the change at 47 doesn't seem as drastic as, quitting the practice of law or giving up your businesses after having brain surgery, but it kind of is, because I was finally growing up as a human being, I think. And so I didn't realize it at the time. And again, I realize now that I started further a couple months after my 47th birthday. And there's something called the U-shaped happiness curve, which basically says you start off happy and you got this slope, and then you kind of bottom out for a while, usually during your 40s. And like your peak unhappiness is at age 47.1, which is oddly specific, but but that's what the research shows. And that's what age I was when I started going, I got to do something here. I got to change something. Everything I thought would make me happy, again, it's great, but it's not it. And then by the time I hit 50, I was happier than I've ever been. Um, Selling a company or two doesn't hurt. But again, it's not the money. I didn't buy a new house. I sold my expensive cars. I'm just like, I have a much better feel for what's important now. Now, don't get me wrong. When you're comfortable, it's easier to work on yourself. But what I'm seeing, and especially communicating with an audience now that's primarily my age range, we're all kind of going through the same things. It's not specific to any one person's situation. It's a phase of life. And generally during midlife, you're transitioning to try to be a better version of yourself, whether you listen to Tony Robbins or not, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Which again, I have a lot of admiration for young people who kind of work on themselves from an early standpoint, because I kind of thought that was important. I focused on the intellectual side almost too much, because you can't solve everything with rationality.